everybody because hello everyone. I can't see everyone because it's share screen, but thank you all for appreciating your time. And I always start every presentation with everybody is an expert in something. There is no such thing as a dumb question. And I just get bit by the political bug when I was 7. It just never went away. So that is how I am here. So these are pictures of me. Policy, I think that Policy is probably my boyfriend. If I had a boyfriend, it would be Policy because I love it that much. And then these are just pictures of me at other events. I used to be heavily involved in Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, so I used to do voter engagement work. This is a picture of me in poster Kona Fletcher, and then that is me, Representative Flood. I think we were at a rally, and I think this picture right here is a picture of me at an energy event at the library. And then policy-wise, I have my bachelor's degree in political science with a minor in philosophy from the University of Kentucky. And then I wanted to experience being away from home. So I have my master's degree in public policy with a concentration in social policy from the Andrew Young School of Policy Studies at Georgia State. So can you all see my screen? Because I have like a lot of mess on my screen. So can you all just see the screen without all the mess that I see?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure because on my screen it looks a mess. So I have graphics like these, but for this one, I just pulled the legislative branch. That's the branch of government we're talking about today. But of course, there's 2 other branches. There is the executive branch, which at the federal level is the president. The state level is the governor. The county level is the county judge, executive, and then at the city level, it is the mayor. I live in Lexington, so I'm spoiled. We have a merged government. So when I did my website, it took me a lot of work to go over the county offices, but I did it. It took me about 3 months. So yes, and then there's the judicial branch, which houses all the courts. But like I said, for the focus of this presentation, we are going to talk about the legislative branch. The legislative branch is the body that creates and passes laws. And then, of course, it's set up that way so that no branch gets too powerful. And I always tell people when they get mad and they start complaining, I'm like, this is the branch that you want to complain to because this is the branch that can actually fix your problem. Like the president has the power of the pen and the president can sign. And then the judicial branch, it's their job to see if the law is constitutional. But the legislative branch is the branch that impacts your daily life, and it is the branch that can actually do something. So at the county level, that's the fiscal court. City is council. At the state level, it's the state legislature, which comprises of the state house and the state senate. And then federal, it's the U.S. House of Representatives and U.S. senators. And this graphic and all the other ones are on my website under the resource tab, I think is where I moved them to. I just redid my website, so I have a hard time of finding where everything is because it was set for the election, but I just redid it like 2 weeks ago. Okay, so on this slide right here, you have your leadership. So in the Senate, you have your majority leadership, which right now, since there are more Republicans in the Senate, the majority party leadership is Republican, and then the Senate minority leadership is Democrats. So you have President Stivers, and President Stivers, he is the president because he has been there the longest. And then there's President Pro Temp, Senator David Givens. He's been there the second longest. And then majority floor leader is Max Wise. He was Kelly Craft's pick to be her lieutenant governor when she ran for governor last year. Year before last. He was her lieutenant governor pick. And the job of my majority leader, they serve as the leadership. Like they speak for the party. So they let the public know, like, hey, these are our objectives and our goals for this year. And then you have the caucus chair, and the caucus chair just helps, push issues along. And then the whip. A lot of people don't realize what the whip does, but it's the whip's job to monitor legislation and to count the votes. That's the whip's job, and most people don't realize that. So like you may say, hey, what does the whip do? The whip actually has a very important job because their party is dependent on this person to make sure that things are in order. Because the worst thing you could do is put a bill on the floor and then your members not support it. So it's their job. And then on the Senate minority leadership, you have Senator Jared Neal. He is the minority leader. And then you have Senator Reggie Thomas is the minority caucus chair. And then you have Senator Yates, which is the minority whip. So does that make sense with like the leadership positions? And then next, it's the same thing on the House side. So House Majority Whip, you have Speaker Osborne. That's the only difference. In the Senate, it's Senate President. And then in the House, it's Speaker of the House, David Osborne. Speaker Pro Temp is David Meade. Majority Floor Leader is Stephen Rudy. Majority Caucus Chair is Stephen Miles. And Majority Whip is Jason Nemes. And then on the House minority side, you have Representative Pamela Stevenson. She is the first African-American woman to hold the position, and she is the second woman in history to hold that position. And Minority Caucus Chair is Al Dentry, and then Minority Whip is Lindsey Burke. So does anybody have any questions? And then, of course, there's other members as well. The Senate is comprised of 38 members. The House is comprised of 100 members. All right. So this is what we're here for. We are here to learn how to talk to our legislators. I always tell people all the time, there is no need to be scared to talk to an elected official because guess what? They are human beings just like we are. They put on their shoes 1 feet at a time. They put on their clothes and their pants 1 leg at a time. They brush their teeth. They do everything exactly the same way we do. The only reason why they have power and authority is because we either voted them in ourselves or our votes got overwritten because other people wanted them to be in. So it was an election and they had the most votes, and that is how they got there. And even if you didn't vote for your elected official, they still represent you. So that is why. So why should you set up a meeting? You should set up a meeting because these state legislators, they make decisions that impact our daily lives. Like whatever goes on in Frankfurt, when the session ends, that legislation goes into effect in June or July. It depends on like the 90-day mark. Versus when legislation is passed in Washington, it takes a few years. Like the Affordable Care Act, it was passed, but like if you really think about it, how long did it take you to feel the benefits of the Affordable Care Act? Like you didn't feel them immediately. It took like 2-3 years for you to feel the effect, right? Because it's not like the Affordable Care Act passed and then everybody had health insurance. No, it took time. States had to get things in place and everything. So I express the importance of being involved at the state and local level. And also as well, state elected officials, they're going to be more important because it seems like the current administration is going toward giving states more power and authority. So if states are going to have more power and authority, that means the legislator is going to have more power and authority. So they should be able to have to hear from us. We should have a say-so as to how things are made. And then advocacy is not new. Advocacy is something that people have always done, but the thing that has changed about advocacy is the way that we do it, because of course, like our lifestyle has changed. So back in the day, you wouldn't email your senator, you would just write until you ran into them at the county fair or the county market or something, and you would talk to them that way. So yes. So that is why you should set up a meeting, because they make decisions that impact your daily life and you should have a say in that. So how to set up a meeting? Most of the time in Frankfurt, you could either call or email your elected officials. I always say be nice to the secretary, because the secretary is your gatekeeper. Sometimes, legislators may ask, how was this person? Was they nice or were they rude? And also as well, secretaries in Frankfurt, they work for about 3 to 4 legislators, because in Frankfurt, not each elected official gets their own secretary. So just, be nice to them. Please, please be nice to them, because they are very lovely people. I used to be an intern in Frankfurt, so they are very lovely people. So after you plan the meeting, you set up the meeting, okay, now you got a plan. What is your plan for the meeting? Because most of the time when you meet a legislator, they're so busy. So you're normally only going to have about 30, sometimes 15 minutes because they have committee meetings. And especially in a short session like they're in now, they're in a 30-day session. So like they really don't have a lot of time. So it is best if you come in prepared. So first, what you want to do is you want to define your issue. So that means you have highlights as to what the issue is, why does it matter to you, who does it impact, provide facts and stats, because legislators love facts and stats, and also as well, make your message plain. Like, don't use fancy jargon because they may not understand it. You may be an expert in this field, but legislators, they have to work on millions of issues, so they can't be an expert in everything. And also as well, I have my minor in philosophy, and we were taught in order to strengthen your argument, you want to see what the opposing side is saying and use that to strengthen your argument. So just come in prepared. And some legislators, they may come in with their own thoughts and notions. So that's another reason why you should prepare, because the legislator may ask you questions and they may do their own research. So yes, and then identify possible solutions. So I'm a firm believer in nothing is new under the sun. So I believe that, another state or another municipality has had to deal with the issue, whatever it is you're working on. So pull from that to create possible solutions. And then after you meet with the legislator, you want to develop an engagement plan, because you're not just going to have this meeting and then like you're going to have your way and everything is going to be done. No, so you should plan. Have a plan, whether that's you and your friends. Y'all say that I'm gonna call the hotline and I'm gonna try to get this issue through, which is I'll share that number later. Or if you want to use social media or whatever it is you want to use, just make sure the issue stays in their face. And then the next step. Oh, during the meeting. During the meeting, you want to get your point across without being combative. I know sometimes when we get passionate about those issues that we care about, we may raise our voice, or we may be like, but I need you to care. I want you to care. Like you may want to do that. But just get your point across. Try to remain calm. And also as well, there's going to be times to where you may just have to respectably disagree, because we can't agree on everything, but sometimes we can meet in middle ground and find that ground in the middle. And also as well, when you're having these conversations with elected officials, you always want to remember to attack the issue and attack the ideology, but don't attack the person, because we are concerned about the issue, because the issue is going to remain the same, but that elected official, they may not decide not to run again, or they may decide that they don't want to do it anymore, or they may lose. So you always want to make sure that the issue and the ideology, because that's the two things that are not going to change, but the person is. That's another thing that I try to stress is we need to educate ourselves on these offices, because the offices don't change, but the people do. And I think sometimes we get caught up in people. Like I know a lot of people, they loved Allison Grimes, but nobody had no clue what the Secretary of State did. They just loved her because she had nice outfits and everything. I'm like, do you actually know what the Secretary of State actually does? So I always try to tell people to be mindful of that. And then after the meeting, tell them thank you. Stay in touch and hold them accountable. Send them a thank you email, or send them a card, however personal touches you like to do. I always like to do handwritten cards, because I think that's the personal touch when we're in the age of digital. Like sending like that old nostalgic goes a long way. Mm. And then next point I want to make is work with them when you agree and push them when you disagree. So if your elected official is of the opposite party of you, you may be able to share your perspective with them, and you may be able to find some common ground and meet in the middle to get to a happy medium for that issue. And I always tell people to remember that you can compromise without losing your morals and values. There is a way to do that. And then if your elected official is of the same party as you, you all may have two different stance on the issue. Like, I don't like to use the terms like middle, left, right, center, because at the end of the day, we're all human, and the issues like is what we're trying to focus on. But your elected official may be like, hey, I just want to take this issue and stop right here. But you may think like, no, like I want it all. I want to go the long mile because I believe that we can do this. So sometimes you have to push elected officials outside their comfort zone. I remember when President Obama was in office and he made the comment, he said, sometimes you got to push me to get your goal across. And so, legislators, they understand that sometimes they are going to be pushed. All righty. Any questions?
I have a question. This is Marilyn.
Yes.
If you're going to set a meeting with legislator, is it best to have just one issue you're talking about? Or if you have multiple things you're concerned about, would it be appropriate to say, I want to talk about several things? What do you think the most effective thing to do is just keep it to one topic or not?
It depends on like how many issues you have. Like, sometimes people will take advantage of the 30-day session, and that's just because most of the time in a 30-day session, which is an odd year, they go in for like the 4 days in January, and then they go back to their district. So if they don't have meetings to go to in Frankfurt, they would have more time to talk to their constituents. So I would just say it depends on like how much time they have in when you're having the meeting. Because this year, after this year's election, when I send out my weekly email, I encourage people to meet with their legislators ahead of time before they get busy with, learning Frankfurt and everything like that. So it's really a matter of like how much time that you have. Or you may have to divide and conquer. Like you may go in and like let's say it's the League of Women Voters. So let's say like you, Miss Marilyn, you care about, I'm trying to think of an issue. You're concerned about taxes. You're concerned about taxes. So you can go in and meet with the legislator about taxes, but then you could have someone else from the League of Women Voters go in, and let's say they're worried about food insecurity in the area. So that person could go in and talk about food insecurity. So kind of divide and conquer depending on the time, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Any more questions?
Yep, I'll ask one.
Okay.
Sharon, so I am a member of League of Women Voters, but very, very new. And hats off to Cindy for being a mentor. Thank you. So what do you think about the interim joint committee sessions?
I think those,
I went to a couple of them, or more than a couple of them, but in what you're saying here is, are those important, or should I just forget about them and just go after regular sessions?
no, I would say interim sessions are important because sometimes interim sessions, they can be seen as a preview of what legislation is about to be introduced. I think of interim session as like research because, we have a part-time legislator. So that means most of our legislators, they have other jobs and stuff like that. So that interim session is where they can have time to learn and everything. So I would say set up a meeting because the interim session is easy because the interim session, that schedule is set on Friday, and you know when they're going to be in Frankfurt and when they're not going to be in Frankfurt. Versus if you try to meet with them now, they have committee meetings and like you don't know a committee meeting. Like they have a set agenda when they come back next week. However, committee meetings, they get changed. they get canceled. So I would say an interim session is a good time and a good time to meet with them. And most people, they don't think about interim session. But and for those who don't know, interim session is the session that happens in between regular sessions. So interim session normally starts in June and it goes until the second or third week in December. And during interim session, they have sometimes they take time off to go to conferences, and they normally have like 1 week of the month to where it won't be any meetings, but they normally have meetings from like Monday to Friday. Like this interim session, they did a task force on housing because housing, it's not just an issue here in Kentucky or in Lexington. Housing is an issue across America. So they did a task force on that. So I don't know if any legislation is going to come of that, but it may. And then they also did one on Jefferson County Public Schools. They did a task force on that to see how they should proceed going forward. Should they keep Jefferson County School District as one district, or does it need to be divided up? So there's a lot to be gained from interim session. So I say if you have the time, I say do it. Go for it. I'm never going to turn anybody away from engaging with their elected officials because I feel like it's very important. I feel like elected officials need to hear from us, their constituents. So I'm never going to say anybody no. So yes, any more questions? Yes, Ms. Marilyn? You're on mute.
Okay, sorry about that.
You're fine.
I can't remember who said it. I'm trying to find now. Cindy said it's a good idea to get to know your legislators so that when you do approach them about a problem or something, they have an idea of who you are. What is the best way to get to know them? Or what is any way to get to know them?
One way to get to know them is when they're on the campaign trail. Show up to like their events and forums. That's one way to get to know them. Or just setting up a meeting. Sometimes I tell people like if they have the time to have a meeting with them before they go, because the election is in November. So if weather is not too bad, maybe reach out to them and say, hey, I know that you were just elected. I would like to meet with you, kind of just to like get to know you. So that time, and then like I said, with this year being a 30-day session, meet with them because they've been out basically the whole month of January. They went in January the 7th. They were there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Friday they got out, and they don't come back until December the 4th. And also as well, like Mr. Martin was saying, maybe try to meet with them during the summer. But I would say a good time is like on the campaign trail.
Thank you.
Yes, I used to have my city council's phone number in my phone, my state rep's number in my phone, and my school board numbers in my phone. Now, I still have quite a few elected officials' phone numbers in my phone. But yeah, because like I just said, like they're people too. Like they're humans. They're not like these magical people that get elected and then they get put in this magical box. Like, no, like they still have to talk to people. They still have to engage with us. Any more questions?
So I'll be weird, Sharon.
There's no such thing as weird.
Yeah, I'm pretty weird. So I was treasurer for my local council person.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a phone call from Adam Moore, who wanted me to help with his campaign. So in the vein of trying to get to know your council person, or not council person, your legislator, would you advocate people try to help with campaigns as a means to sort of find a way in to affect how they think? Or is that just wrong, basically?
It's only wrong if you don't truly believe in the candidate, because when you're volunteering, you're not being paid for that position and you're giving up your time. And I'm a firm believer in that your time is the most valuable form of currency that you have. So I say if you really support the candidate, you really feel like the candidate then win, then yes, volunteer, work on the campaign. It just depends on like your motive. If you're only doing it for reasons to like use against them or to like retaliate against them, I wouldn't recommend that. So if you truly support the candidate, then yes, and you think they have a chance, you think they will be good for the district, yes, go for it.
And do you find that it actually helps you being able to present ideas to that candidate when they get elected? Or
Yeah, because like I said, elected officials, they're not experts on everything. And also as well with elected officials, they have many constituents and they have blind spots. Like they may only know the issues in their neighborhood. So like for instance, in a Senate district, there's 100 House seats and there's 38 Senate districts. So you have to think a Senate district has at least 3 to 4 House districts in their Senate district. It's impossible for them to know every issue that's going on. So legislators, like, they want to hear from us. I mean, a good legislator, if they went in it with a good heart, I feel like all public officials should go into it to help the people and to make people's lives better. That's the basis as to why someone should run.
all right, thank you.
Any more questions?
Priya had a question in the chat saying, is going to Frankfurt solo on an issue frowned upon? That is it more likely that a legislator will schedule a meeting if it's a group, like 2 or more people coming to speak with them? Or what are your opinions on that?
I don't know, because I've went to go talk to legislators in a group. But I mean, I feel like there's no harm in going in solo, but I will say, of course, there are powers in numbers. I'm a firm believer in that there's power in numbers, but also too, you may just have to go by yourself because I mean, like Miss Marilyn was saying before everyone got on civics and getting involved in politics, especially at the state and local level, it's not like the cool thing to do. So sometimes you do got to be the lone wolf and you do got to go on your own. But if you go to the meeting on your own, in the previous slide, I said develop an engagement plan. So you can go to Frankfurt and have the meeting by yourself, but just continue to apply pressure on the outside, whether that's getting in coalition with like-minded groups like League of Women Voters. I know you all are in a few coalitions. So yeah, or getting people to email them or yeah. So it's like, I can understand both stance. But at the end of the day, like I said, I'm a firm believer in your voice being heard. Do whatever it is you have to do to get your issue heard. Any more questions? I can't see the chat because I think if I check on the chat, I think like it does something to like my shared screen.
I think we're clear for right now. Go for it.
All right. See.
I have a quick question by any chance.
Yes.
I'm a student at Center College, but I'm originally from North Carolina. Do legislators care about the opinions of people who aren't their direct voters? Or could I still like get involved with advocacy with legislators in Kentucky?
I'm glad that you asked that question, and I would say you should still get involved here because you are a student at Center College, and that is an institution here in Kentucky. Center College does get funding. No, Center is private. They may get some funding from the state, but you're here 9 months out of the year, out of 12 months of the year. So I would say if there's something that you see that is wrong on center campus, yeah, and you don't have to tell them that you're from North Carolina. You can say, I am a student at Center College and I notice XYZ, because Center College is basically your home for a percentage of the year.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes, Miss Marilyn?
I was so busy listening to what you were saying, I almost forgot why I raised my hand. Oh, I know. We were talking about meetings with legislators and so forth, many versus one. I think a lot of it depends upon your relationship with the legislator as well. I have campaigned for people in the past, and I've had working relationships with them as well. And I feel very comfortable in approaching them by myself, because when I do approach them, even though I'm by myself, it's not just for me. It's either for the masses or for a large group of people, and they know that. So the main thing is, don't let it go unsaid. If it's a group or if it's just you, make sure your voice is heard.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. I like it when college students get involved, but now when it comes to voting and changing your voter registration and everything, I'm kind of iffy on that, because we still have this system in America called the Electoral College. So we all know the election is a game of math. So it depends on like where you're from as to whether or not you should change your voter registration. That's where I kind of have a hard time with grappling. It's like a very nuanced like conversation, but we're not even here to talk about that. We're talking about engaging at the state level. So that's a conversation for another day, for next year, 2026, when midterms happen. Did you have another question, Mr. Martin?
So I have had the privilege actually of chatting with Senator Thomas on 4 or 5 occasions, and in Chad Hall and a couple other representatives. And I do attempt to be very respectful. Is there anything that really pisses them off?
I don't know. Chad Hall is my representative, and I know him very well. And I also know Senator Thomas very well too. When Senator Thomas got elected, I was actually among one of his first visitors to visit him when he got to Frankfurt. I don't think so, just based off of what I know. Both of them, they are very level-headed, very temperament, very, willing to listen, willing to like work with you. So I don't know if there's anything that pissed them. I mean, of course, like when you lie on them, but of course, when you lie on anybody, like they're gonna be mad and upset. So yeah, but I can't think of anything that would piss a legislator off. I can't think of anything, but I know those two, they're very open door and very positive. Senator Thomas, he will pull out, if you know Senator Thomas, he always has his black book. He is always collecting emails, always. And he's been in office now for almost 10 years, and that's the first thing that he's going to ask you. He doesn't care if you are his constituent or not. He wants you to get his email that he sends out every Friday. Him and Senator Neal, they both send out emails every Friday, and he wants you on that list.
Oh, so I'm on basically every person's list for Lexington Fayette Urban County government. How do you get on people's lists at the state level? I actually had a very difficult time getting on the email list for Senator Thomas. Is there some website that you're aware of to be able to sign up for newsletters?
I know Senator Thomas is very old school, so he still goes the black book route, and then I guess he has somebody to put it in. I feel like maybe when they campaign, I know sometimes like when they campaign, they'll use those emails. And then once they win the campaign, they'll ask you, hey, I have won the election. Is it okay if I stay in contact with you? So yeah, and also just attend town hall forums that they're speaking at, or just call their secretary. Just call Frankfurt and say, hello, I am such and such. I want to be on such and such email list. Can you pass it along? Yes, Miss Marilyn. All right, see, we are almost finished here. Miss Marilyn, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Okay, finally.
Mhm.
Listen, uh, one of the things I think is important for the people that you elect to represent you is open communication. I remember telling Reggie, when he was running, that the one thing I liked about Reggie Meeks out of Louisville, well, I always knew what was going on in Frankfurt because of Reggie Meeks. He wrote a weekly newsletter each week. Nobody else ever did that. And I told him how important it is to let your constituents know what's going on for a lot of reasons. One, they want to know, and two, if there's something that they need to contact you about. So try to get them to commit to letting you know what's going on in Frankfurt, especially if you're campaigning for that person.
Mm-hmm.
And one last plea I'd like to make. I'm on the Fayette County Board of Elections. This is my last year, thank goodness. Don't get me wrong. I've enjoyed the ride, but I'm tired, I'm old, and I'm cranky. We need another Democratic commissioner. And to keep things balanced, we've always gotten along so well. That's the one thing I like about our board of elections here. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, we just get along so well. You never know anybody was of another party. What I'm asking is that we get someone else to replace me who is willing to stand up for democratic reasons. Okay, because I love Dan. He's strong-willed. And so you're going to have someone who can stand up to him to keep everything balanced. So I'd like you all to keep that in mind. I've been telling them for really a year because they asked us to stay on an extra year because of the presidential election. And I wouldn't want anybody to start on a presidential election like I did 9 years ago. That's horrible. So
Yeah, and
please think about that too. And if you're able to do it, consider yourself.
yeah, and
Thank
there
you.
is a process when those elections come up on the Democratic side and on the Republican side. I just have to make sure I mention both sides because the League of Women Voters is nonpartisan, and I want to make sure they stay in good tax standing. So yes, if you are interested in being on the Board of Elections, that process is on the Secretary of State's page, and I know what the website looks like because I've been to it a million times. Because before my current job, I used to work for one of the state parties. But yes, I can picture the website, but I'm drawing a blank on it. But I can get that information to President Laza for you, and you can sign up. But yeah, I think it has to. I think you have to sign up, and then I think like the county party chairs, they do something, and then that's how they pick that person. But that is a position on the Republican side and the Democratic side.
I only mentioned the Democratic side because I'm leaving. Dan isn't. So
Okay.
there's no opening for the Republican side, but there is for the Democratic side. And I strongly encourage you to start here in Fayette County first, because they're the ones that make the decision, and then it goes to the state.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you guys. I'm not gonna run my mouth anymore.
You're fine. It's okay. We're having discussions. That's how we get things done, is by having conversation. We can't get anything done if we're all in our own little silo. So I welcome conversation. I
Thank
can
you.
talk about this stuff all day long till I'm blue in the face. But I'm not gonna do that because we almost have 20 minutes left and I have one more slide to get to. So what if you can't make it to Frankfurt? Because I do know that we all have these things called jobs because we have to pay bills and we have to eat and we have to provide for families and other people's. Well, if you cannot make it to meet in person, guess what? There is still 2 ways that you can allow your voice to be heard. You can email your state elected officials. All senators and legislators, they all have email addresses. They're all on my website right now. I actually have every elected official on there. I need to go back through and get the president's information on there. But currently right now, if you go to reallifecivics.com and you go to elected officials, I have all of our 6 congressional members on there. I have our 2 senators on there. I have all 38 senators on there, and I have all 100 representatives on there. I even have ways to get in contact with judges if you live in Lexington. I also have our school board members on there, our city council members on there, and our soil and water confirmation board on there as well. So email them, email your state elected officials. Or you can also call the LRC hotline. That number is 1-800-372-7181. And like I said before in the beginning, I used to be an intern for Representative Ruth Ann Palumbo when I went to school at UK. So when you call the LRC hotline, whoever takes the message, there's these things called green slips. So the person that takes the information and then it gets printed on a green slip, and then that green slip gets sent to your elected officials. And it used to be my job to sort the green slips. So if it was like bill number 200, I had to put in a pile for the yeses for House Bill 200. I had to put in a pile for the noes for House Bill 200. And I do know that they actually use them. I'll use for an example, Representative Attica Scott, when she was in the state legislature, she would actually go on the floor, and when she was advocating for against bill, she would say, I have this many green slips, and she would actually hold up her green slips to let people know, like, I'm not making this up. My constituents called me and they said that I should support this bill, or they called me and they said that I should be against this piece of legislation. So I don't know if all elected officials do that. I do know when Representative Ruth Ann Palumbo was there, she did, because it was my job to sort the green slips. So yes. And then the last slide that I have, and then we can go into questions, are resources. So resources that I use, the Kentucky General Assembly is very busy, especially when they have a 30-day session. It's very busy. But if you download the KET app, you can actually watch the legislative meetings in person on the app. You can also watch them online. And then another show that I watch is Kentucky Edition with Renee Shaw. Renee Shaw, she used to have a show called Legislative Update that used to come on at 11 or 11:30, I think, but then she wanted to cover more topics, so she switched to Kentucky Edition, and that comes on at 6:30 Monday through Friday Eastern Time, 7:30 Central Time. I always add Central Time because my website is very Kentucky based, so I always remember the people in Western Kentucky that are hour behind. So I do Eastern and Central Time a lot. It's just something that I've gotten used to. And actually that is what I use for my email. I use Kentucky Edition to keep up with everything in the state because I can't keep up with everything. It's 30 minutes and it's just a brief overview of what's going on in Kentucky. When they go back in session, she will have a brief session of what goes on. On Wednesday, she'll have like a midweek check-in with Ryland Bartland. He works for our National News Network, and they'll go over all stuff in Kentucky. And they'll also go over some stuff in Frankfurt as well if it impacts Kentucky. So it's a very good show. Also, one that I don't have on here is Comment on Kentucky. That comes on Fridays as well. And then also, of course, the League of Women Voters. They have a newsletter that they send out as well. And then me, I have Real Life Civics. I send out my email I try to get it out on Sundays. Sometimes it's just me, so sometimes it comes out on Monday as well. Because I'm a firm believer in I'm not gonna put something out because I said that it's gonna be out every Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm a firm believer in I want to make sure the information I'm giving you is correct and accurate. And sometimes it just takes me a little bit longer to gather my sources. And also as well, I also try to stick to my rule of only sending out one email a week because I don't like to spam people's email boxes unless like there's something like extremely important. Like there may be a time when the governor did his state of started the Commonwealth address, you know, that might have been a time that I may have sent up. But if it's like a huge national televised event and I need everyone to watch it, that's the only time that I would send out 2 emails. But I go over federal, state, and local if you live in Lexington. And occasionally I'll also add a section called Around the World. Also with Real Life Civics, I also have about 24 people that don't live in Kentucky. So I have to look up information for their state as well. I actually have to do that when I get off here. I have someone that just joined from Florida. So I have to give them a rota profile for them. But I am rooted in Kentucky because I am a firm believer in I have to take care of home first. So Lexington and Kentucky are my homes and I take care of y'all first. And then I take care of everybody else because when we go to DC and they create policy, they're not just creating policy for Kentucky, they're creating policy for the United States. So I need other people to make sure that they are politically in tune as well. So yes, so I am finished. So if you all have any more questions, ask away.
Sharon, we had another one in the chat asking, is it more effective to share my opinion with all members or just your own representatives?
If the issue is in committee, I would say you need to share your opinion with everyone that's on that committee. Because the House and Senate, they are divided up into committees. So yeah, share it with everyone on that committee. And actually, that's the best time to get stuff changed or taken out of a bill is when it's in committee. That's the best time to get that done is when it's in committee before it goes to the full floor.
We had another question asking a little bit more about the format of Real Life Civics and how to access. I went ahead and dropped your a link to the website in the chat, but if you want to talk a little bit more about that, email format, perhaps.
Yeah, if you go to the website and you click join us, it'll ask for your name, city, and state. And like I said, I need your city and state because what I do is once you give me that information, I send you your local and state and federal profile. I send you that information. And then when I do the Around America section of the email, like if you don't live in Lexington, I try to make sure that I include stuff. But yeah, if you go to the website, that'll get you put on the email list. I normally check it Friday, and I normally add everyone to my email distribution list. And you can also ask me questions as well. There's an ask question button on there. So yeah. I just really love policy. I'm a nerd. I'm weird, like Martin.
It's great to be weird.
I know. Martin, we can be weird together, okay? We can be weird and awkward together, okay?
All right, thank you. So I will ask you yet another question. So I understand how to learn about our legislators who are running for office. I understand how to learn about executives who are running for office. I have a hell of a time trying to figure out the judges who are running for office.
I knew you were going to ask that question. I knew you were going that direction.
I mean, my hair, flames up, and when you look at their websites, there's nothing there. And I've actually sent a handwritten email to Chief Justice Van Meter, and he responded, and it was a useless response. How do you understand how to effectively vote for a judge?
So for judges, I will admit, judges, they are tricky. I would say go to forums and town halls that judges has, such as the League of Women Voters. Like the League of Women Voters, when they do their forums, I put their information on my website come election time. I normally wait because I think the League of Women Voters, they normally wrap up like all their interviews like 2 weeks before election. So I will go in and I will link the stuff, but I also don't plagiarize. So at the top, it'll be like these interviews came from League of Women Voters, and I give them a link to their YouTube page. Also, if they have been a judge before, I'm gonna sound super nerdy when I do this, but you can read their opinions that they've written in other cases. And I know that is like super nerdy, but I have did that before. I have went through and read opinions. And then a shortcut that I use sometimes.
So I'm going to interrupt you. Are you a lawyer, Sharon?
No, I am not.
No. Okay. So when I read bills, most of the time it's like, well, I need to be a lawyer, and I can't imagine trying to read opinions from judges without being a lawyer.
Well, I have my bachelor's degree in political science, and most people that go into law school, they do political science as their major, and then they do philosophy as their minor. Like I said, to help them to defend their argument, and then they also go through the 3 semesters of Latin to get them prepared for law school. My original plan was to go to law school because I actually went through all of that, but you know, me and the LSAT, we do not get along, and it's like I'm just not good at standardized tests. I don't mean this to say that like I know like I'm not stupid or anything, but I'm just bad at standardized tests. So I took the GRE and I ended up getting my degree in public policy, and I'm kind of glad that I did that because since my degree is in policy, I can go in many different directions. Versus if I would have got my law degree, then I would have been objected to just do law. Like I know so many people that have law degrees, but they're not practicing law. They're doing like other stuff. So yeah. And judges, they have to do that because when they're campaigning, they can't tip off how they would simply decide in a case. So like they have to walk like a fine line, and I get it. I understand that. But yeah, judges, they are hard. They
I
are.
would agree with you, Sharon, but I did find that in doing those candidate forums, you were able to kind of get a feeling of which philosophy they were following and whatnot in listening to that. Um, it's really hard because judges are supposed to be impartial, but a lot of times, um, what biases they're bringing forward is going to affect their decisions as well.
Yeah, and then you have like different kind. You have like right now in the Supreme Court, you have what you call like your originalists as to how they interpret the Constitution, and then you have your foundationalists as to how they create the law. So it can go in all different categories. But yeah, the judicial branch, it is difficult, but they do serve an important purpose when it comes to policy, because how they rule on cases, it sets precedent, and sometimes that signals the legislator that like, hey, you know, we need to go back through and change this law. Like it signals the legislator that like they need to do something based off how judges rule in cases, especially in criminal justice cases.
Mm-hmm.
So they do play a part in the policy space. Yes, Miss Marilyn.
In my research, because I won't vote for a candidate if I don't know what he or she stands for, Ballotpedia has been helpful in the past with some of the things that they have done, as well as sometimes one thing will link to another, and you can see interviews with newspapers as well. And that's how I've tried to narrow down some of mine, and then the rest is pure guess.
Yeah. Yeah, you can look at association ratings. Yeah, you can. Yeah. Did you want to say something, Miss Cindy? I seen you come off mute.
I want to promote our Elite Day, but I'll wait until everybody's finished with questions.
Oh, okay. Any more questions? I'm not afraid of your questions. I promise I'm not.
You've answered a lot of them this hour. Thank you so much, Sharon.
And if I don't know the answer, I will straight tell you I don't know the answer, but I will research it and get back to you because I'm human. I can't know everything. My brain only has so much capacity.
So I'll ping you one more time.
Okay, I'm
So,
ready.
I am a member of the transparency team for the League of Women Voters of Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I joined that team really was because I was getting really pissed off about transparency at the local level, like Lexington, Fayette, Urban County government. And mainly because of how the budget process works. So I know your focus in this meeting has been all about state government.
Mm-hmm.
How would you recommend folks think about their local government? And how to,
Y'all want me to go in?
how to
Or do you-
monitor it and engage with it?
Are you talking overall or just for the budget process?
Well, so I'm a money guy, and to me, it's all about, the priority of government is how they allocate money. So that's me. But I know there's
Resources
lots
in
of
general.
other, I know there's lots of other ways people think about government, affordable housing, and health, and all that kind of stuff. To me, it's all about money. And if the government doesn't put money against a particular thing, they don't care about it. And so, as I've watched Lexington, Fayette, Urban County government the last couple of years, there are meetings that are not recorded. And so if you don't happen to be there, you miss out. How should I poke my local representatives, the mayor, the council members, and I've got to believe this plays out to other to county governments and to other municipalities. How do you view this? How do you go after this?
Local government?
Yeah.
Local government. They have committee meetings most Tuesdays at 1. Work session is at 3. Council meetings, they are typically on Thursday and they're every other Thursday, but sometimes per the charter, they have to get in 2 council meetings a month. So sometimes they will have a meeting on Tuesday right after rec session, and then they'll have another one on Thursday. But that's just so they can get their 2 meetings in, so that they can have recess.
So I don't. I mean, I don't want to.
I know. I'm building up.
I don't want to drag you down. I am beyond super familiar with how Lexington Fayette. I mean, cows and link sessions and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to think about it from the perspective of county governments across Kentucky, city governments across Kentucky. How do citizens make sure that their representatives at those levels, not just Lexington Fayette Urban County government, again, who's pissed me off for the last 2 years with regards to budget, how do citizens hold their local representatives accountable?
Well, I don't want to speak on what other cities do because all of us, I'm assuming most of us here live in Lexington, Fayette County or somewhere. And also as well, Lexington, our government operates differently because we are a merged government. So Lexington, our city and county government merged, and then you have Louisville. Louisville is a metro. But all the other 118 counties in Kentucky, they have the fiscal court, which is their county board, but then also they also have their city council as well. So I always think it of as Scott County. Scott County Fiscal Court, that's an elected branch that takes care of your county needs. But then the people that live in Georgetown, they also have their city council. So I would tell them to use the same technique. I would say email their elected officials or call them and show up to meetings. Because most meetings, they have to have a public comment. They have to have some mechanism for the public to engage. Now in Lexington, with our budget process, Mayor Gorton, she will give a budget address. When she gives that budget address, that document is made public. So I would say that people could go through and read that document, and then after that, they could email their council members, because city council, we now have a website called Engage Lex, which is supposed to help with the budget process. So you can use that link to get updates to stuff.
Linda Gunn.
And then they have yeah, and then council is divided up into league meetings and stuff. I know the Lexington process, but I can't speak for other ones. So I would say email, show up to meetings, and and then for the budget, I do know that I think there's either 1 or 2 public hearings that is on the budget. So yeah.
Martin, I will tell you that Civic Lex and the League have been talking, and we're going to look at pitching a participatory budgeting practice later on this spring. So if you're interested in that, we'll put you on the list, and I'll loop you in for the next meetings on that particular piece.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Louisville tried participatory budgeting once, and I can't remember what the end result was, but I do know that Louisville did a participatory budget. I don't know if they kept doing it, but I do know that they've tried it at least like once within the last 3-5 years, maybe. I do know that Louisville tried that process.
Well, we shall see what happens with it, but we have been having some meetings, and a particular gentleman who's very interested in making that happen. So we'll keep you posted and put those in the League newsletter. For everybody's time, it's getting to be about 7:05. I just want to thank Sharon so very, very much for being involved, and boy, you have a great depth of knowledge, and so I really appreciate it, and look forward to working with you more with the League. I would mention, anybody here who is not already a member of the League, we would absolutely love to have you join. I did throw the link to our website and the join form in the chat. And finally, we do have a very active legislative group that will be meeting, and we have a League Day, and I'm going to turn it over to Cindy Heine to give you that pitch.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Sharon. This has been this has been fun. I've enjoyed listening to you. And you do have lots of information. We need to tap you more often. 2 things. One, we have our annual League Day at the Capitol on February 18th, and everyone is invited to join us. It will be online and in person. It's much more fun in person, and since we're pretty close, it's not too hard to get there from Lexington. We will also do a kickoff either Monday, the 10th of February, or Tuesday, the 11th, just a 1-hour quick session that will be a preparation for League Day, especially for those who've never gone to Frankfurt. We'll show you maps about how to get there, and we'll talk about a lot of the things Sharon's talked about, but we'll also talk specifically about bills that we're promoting this time. And then the second thing is the League does have a legislative team. We call it LCAT, the Legislative Kentucky Advocacy Team. We study bills on issues that we are concerned about, and then we make decisions about what to advocate for or against. If anybody's interested in delving into legislation, and particular issues that you care about, give us a holler at info@lwvky.org and we'll get you connected to that team. We meet every Friday, and the committees, the subgroups or work groups meet throughout the weeks, looking at issues. And Steve Senft, I see you. I'd like to pull you on to our little group that's working on gun safety. I haven't seen you for a while, but anyway, if anybody's interested, just give us a holler. And we will also have on the website fairly soon, if you go to the homepage, there will be a bill tracker, a link that you can click and you can see all the bills that we support or oppose. Some of those will get active on and either testify or send action alerts. Others will just be watching. And a lot of bills we support or oppose don't go anywhere, so we don't take much action on them. But the information Sharon has shared with you about talking to legislators, making those appointments, we encourage you to do that. But we'll actually be there in Frankfurt. We can go with you if you like, and meet with legislators and share information. So that's it. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Frankfurt's not a scary place. I actually consider Frankfurt my playground. When I worked for KFTC, I used to be there quite a lot. So Frankfurt is like my playground. Like, I love it.
Great.
Well, thank you all so very, very much, and so appreciate you spending your time with us this evening, and hope to see you all in Frankfurt.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Miss Cindy, you're on mute.
We'd love to have you join our legislative team. Sounds like you're pretty busy with the work you're doing, but if you've got any extra time and want to join us, feel free.
I will.
So I'll ask you also, Sharon, so are you engaged at all with Bruce so Bruce is the fella that helps us with Bill Track 50.
Bruce Maples?
Yes.
Yes, he is one of my subscribers, and I actually helped him and Miss Anna when they were doing their Kentucky Auxiliary group. I spoke to some of their sessions on there. So yes, I know Bruce.
Do you use Bill Track 50, or do you use another tool to follow bills?
I'm kind of familiar with the website, so I normally just go to the LRC website and I just track it that way.
All right. You're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lots of great information. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sharon, I just want to tell you, I know you said you were a little nervous, but you were fantastic. You
I
really did
know.
a great job. So
People always tell me that, but
Okay.
I get nervous. I think it's because I was always told that, like, if you don't get nervous, then like you really don't care about it. So once I did it, I was like, oh, I was like, so nerves are like a good thing. And then sometimes too, I think sometimes like I talk too fast. So that's why I was like, well, let me just stop and see if like anybody has like any questions.
Well, to me, it's obvious that you were engaging because you had so many questions,
Mm-hmm.
and for our league hasn't done a ton of this stuff, and to have 17 people come, I was really pleased. So, just thank you.
Of
You did
course.
great, and it wasn't nerves, it was energy.
Yes.
It was excitement.
Nerves, energy. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Well, again, appreciate you, and look forward to working with you more.
Yes. Me too. And I think I may have to take you up on that scholarship offer because I'd have to get my windows done. And when I got them priced,
Okay.
they are like talking like in the thousands. I didn't think that it was gonna
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, no, I
Yes.
get it. Yeah, yeah. Now we can definitely put you on as we'll do scholarship for this year, and then you can choose on
Yeah.
renewal and all that kind of a thing.
So do I just need to go online and just fill out the application and then just put on there that I am interested in a scholarship? Is there a spot on the form if I go online or?
You know, that's a really good question because I have not looked at that in a little while. But tell you what, just go ahead and
I'm drawing fuzzy on my website too because I literally like just redid it like the beginning of this month. So like,
yeah, and our whole new membership thing is going to change as well. Because the National League is taking over somewhere in like the middle of February. So much is still up in the air with exactly how to make that happen. Let me just go in and I will get you signed up based upon the information that I have and then send some more information out to you to get to like fill out the profile.
okay, sounds good.
Awesome.
All
Awesome.
right.
Have
Bye.
a great night. And again, I appreciate you doing this.
Oh, of course, anytime. And then let me know if you want me to come back, if y'all want to do something or interim session, or if y'all want to do something. Well, I don't want to session the local because I know you all already have a partnership with Civic Lex, so I don't want to mess with that.
You know what? In my opinion is we want to rise all boats, you know, and there's plenty of space for all of us to work together as opposed to
true.
being competitive.
That is true. But yeah, but just let me know how
All
I
right.
can help, or if you have any ideas what to do next, I'm available.
Awesome. Thanks
All
so
right.
much.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.